Let's get into today's episode of Why We Succeed.
This is the one thing that I would say, speaking as a Black man to you as a white woman, is that you're in the skin that you're in for a reason, right? Because the role that you're playing, not just as a businesswoman, right? Not just as somebody who's helping people who are in need or helping nonprofit organizations, but as an individual. It's your transparency, it's your honesty, it's your willingness to look at yourself and say, how can I add value to other people? That's what it's really about, right? Yeah. And even if I turn the attention onto myself as a Black man or Black people in general, it's the same for us. We have to first start at that individual level and say, hey, what value can I add to other people? What value can I add to the world? And then doing what you can, going back to what you had mentioned, utilizing your skill sets to do that. And as you mentioned, it may not necessarily be the fact that you choose, I guess we could say, intentionally to say, hey, I don't want to work with white people, or vice versa. If we're talking about a Black business owner, them saying, hey, I don't want to work with Black people. It's just the fact that, hey, if you operate in a certain space and there's a certain group of people that you've been called to serve, that's all it is. And the value that you're adding will definitely be recognized. And I just love your transparency and your just willingness to share your journey, your feelings, your thoughts, and do so unapologetically. I feel like that's something that we often don't see. So many people try to bite their tongue. So many people try to say what's politically correct. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is the square that I'm standing on. This is the reason why I'm doing it. And you may not agree with it. You may not understand it, but it's not going to change what I'm doing. And I appreciate that about you, Sarah. I really do.
Well, I think that there's also someone once told me who was a man of color is it's not my job to educate white people. And that has really stuck with me for a long time. And that's, I think, why I try so hard to ask the questions that I do and go out of my way to ask something. It's going to make me uncomfortable, right? Like if y'all have ever watched, if you haven't, you need to. But Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man is an incredible YouTube series. And that's, I think, where a lot of people need to start is stop feeling uncomfortable, because you're going to feel it regardless, and do the work that you have to do, because it's not your job, Jay, to educate me. It's my job to do better and to educate myself and to ask those questions. And so that's what I try to do. And it's always interesting when I do work with someone who isn't someone of color or a minority. One of my strategic questions in my sessions are, how are you going to create diversity and inclusion in your brand? And I worked with somebody recently who I think it caught them off guard, right? But they were like, oh, I guess like imagery could have people of color. And I was like, no, that's not it. Back to the drawing board. That is not what we're doing here, you know?
What I love about what you're saying is the fact that you have a very specific mission. You have a very specific, how can I put this? Like there's a certain group of people that you want to align with. Not because there's anything wrong with them or what they're doing, but because the work that you're doing matters so much to you. You know, we hear so much about people saying, do what you love, do what you're passionate about. But it's totally different when you take the approach that you're taking, where it's like, I will turn down clients if it will compromise my love or my passion or my ability to stay with the mission that I've set from the onset. And that is powerful. You know, it really isn't about race or color or any of those things as much as it is about, this is the mission. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. And it just happens to serve this group of people more so than it serves this other group of people. And as a result, I got to stay on course, stick with this mission.
I'll tell you what, and some people probably listening, y'all are probably like, oh, I'm sure she does that. No, like legit, I onboarded a client maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in our strategy set, this girl paid in full. Okay. Paid in full. And during the strategy session, she said, I only want to work with basically rich white women because I want high invoices. I don't want to work with same-sex couples. I ended the conversation right there. And I said, I have to give you a refund because this goes against my values. And y'all, it was a $9,000 invoice. And I gave it away because I don't care. The money, I don't give a shit about the money. You have to walk the walk that you're talking, and you've got to actually do what you say you're going to do. And that's the integrity that I think people a lot of times overlook when they're starting their business is, I'm sure when y'all heard that I landed 40 clients and I said yes to everything, I still had my values behind that. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of times when people are starting businesses, they're like, got to get the money. I've got to get a client. I quit my job. What am I going to do if I don't get a client? And they overlook those red flags. And then within their first year, they're so resentful of their business because they're not taking the time to focus on the ethos and pathos to help them move forward. Right. And so it's really important for anybody listening that you take an hour this week and you do this. If you don't know what your values are, and I'm not talking about like your niche values, I'm literally sitting here going, what will you say no to? Is it someone who's a Trump supporter? Is it someone who doesn't support same sex? If you don't want those to be your values and you're fine supporting those people, that's fine. But you need to make it clear so you don't give people the wrong impression. My values are literally listed on my website. You can read through them. It's called, if you go to my homepage, there's a link called Culture Manual. Read it. And that's, I definitely challenge anyone listening, like to really think about, when you close your eyes at the end of the day, how do you want people to remember you? What do you want that respect and that integrity to look like?
Right. Oh man, I love what you're saying, Sarah. And this is
I'm such a teacher, right?
Yeah. See, like this is what Why We Succeed is all about, because your why is screaming at us right now. I mean, like, if this was in the movies, we had a bright light shining like with the engine sound, because like it's right there, and it's your values. It's the mission that you have set out to fulfill and accomplish in this world. And I think that that's absolutely amazing. It's like, you have the metrics, you have the numbers, you have all of those things. But as you mentioned, that's not the focus. Yeah. That's not the ultimate goal. That's not the target that you're aiming at. And there's two things that I learned that I think go right in line with what you mentioned. When it comes to doing business, the first thing I had to learn, it was a very valuable lesson, which is how freeing it is when you can finally get to a place where you can say no to potential clients. Like when I learned that lesson, it freed me up to be able to say, you know what? I only want to work with certain people. And that's the second thing. I think
you have to always be in that no place. I don't think that and that's, I think, a misconception about freelancing and entrepreneurship is like, there's some kind of like gate that you get to, and when it opens, you can do that, but you need to be on that no game the whole time. And I think that that's something that I failed at, right? I mean, I definitely had bad clients. I still sometimes get bad clients, but you have to know what your end game is and what your bottom line is in order to feel confident in saying no, right? And there's always work, y'all. There's always work, right? And I would be the first person to tell y'all, the Christmas before COVID hit, I drove Uber for a month because I didn't have clients. Did I sit here and cry on social media and beg people to pay me? No, I did what I had to do. And I think a lot of people don't have the guts to do that, and that's okay. But y'all have to find what your guts are and what your backbone looks like. Hey guys, it's Sarah, the founder and CEO of 99 in St. Clair. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. I am super honored that you've listened to my story and we've had this great conversation so far. I'm excited for what you're about to listen to. But in the meantime, if you want to connect with me, hop on over to Instagram. My handle is @99 St. Clair. Also, that's my website too. Same spelling, everything that you need. Connect with me via DM, send me an email, and let's chat more about your business.